My name is Tariro Kamuti, and I'm going to be talking about the integration of the wildlife economy into the mainstream economy of Zimbabwe. So the background is that the country in May 2023 released a blueprint for tapping into its wildlife resources, which is coined the Status Report, Investment Blueprint and Framework for Natural Capital Accounting. This report is the first of its kind in Zimbabwe, and it seeks to address challenges underpinning biodiversity loss and to position the biodiversity economy as a key sector to invest in. The report is also in line with the country's national development strategy, which seeks to promote economic growth, and also in line with the vision of making the country attain upper middle income status by 2030. The report is also in line with sustainable development goals, particularly the one which talks about economic growth, which is SDG 8. And this report is on the basis of the recognition that biodiversity and economic ecosystem services are particularly important in supporting agriculture, industry, energy, tourism, manufacturing, which are the country's key economic pillars. A key takeaway in the adoption of this report is that it is a turning point where the country actually realizes that it has got natural resources in the form of wildlife, which needs to be integrated into the mainstream economy so that it can benefit the majority. So in the analysis of the integration of the wildlife economy into the mainstream economy, I chose to use an institutional approach based on the understanding that governments are key players in policy formulation and implementation within their jurisdictions as part of their governance systems. And institutions come in different ways and levels. For instance, we look at local governments, government agencies. We also look at different kinds of organizations that are defined by rules, norms, and shared strategies, which all of them actually constitutes the stakeholders that are important in implementing policies. And in this study, I actually used stakeholder and institutional mapping and analysis through analysis of documentary evidence. So in the analysis of institutions, I chose to use a theory of institutional bricolage, where bricolage simply refers to making innovative uses of available materials, despite their initially intended use. And so when you look at institutional bricolage, you see that it's just basically a gradual process of evolution of institutions as individuals' daily actions and relationships shape the course of development of governance mechanisms in line with the changing environmental, political, cultural, social, and economic conditions. And then when you look at institutions in Zimbabwe, you would see that they are all guided by the constitution of the country, which is the overarching rule of the land. And particularly you look at section 73, which guarantees citizens environmental rights and provide for the role of the state to safeguard those rights. And this particular instance, you see that there are some regulations which relate to how the environment has to be protected for the benefit of the present and future generations, that is through sustainability. And the wildlife economic issues actually fit within these provisions, where the state has to make reasonable legislative and other measures within its limits of the resources available to it to achieve the progressive realization of the rights set out in the Constitution. So you would see that there are various kinds of statutory bodies which have been created with supportive environmental legislation and regulations that concern, for example, issues that deal directly with the management and the conservation of forest resources. So we do have various kinds of institutions like the different ministries, the Environmental Management Agency, the Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Management Authority, and the Forestry Commission. So Zimbabwe's biodiversity resources are protected and conserved through state protected areas, private conservancies, areas under the Communal Areas Management Program for Indigenous Resources, and traditionally protected areas. The country is party to several multilateral environmental agreements. The country also realizes that in developing the biodiversity economy, the country needs to balance short and long-term gains and national economic interests and the interests of the environment, communities, and society at large. The report also puts emphasis in the fact that biodiversity provides opportunities for commercial enterprise, but there is need for harnessing those resources in a way that minimizes harm or that augments the full range of benefits that biodiversity contributes to human well-being. So it is important that to achieve this, it is necessary to take stock of biodiversity and the biodiversity economy. Particularly, we look at the relationship between them and to undertake investments that increase the value of ecosystems. I would like to just give examples, because if you look at the wildlife economy, you will see that mostly it is in the informal sector. So in order to broaden, and also increase the value of the wildlife economy and putting it into the mainstream economy, there is need to formalize it. So for instance, here you would see that there is value addition in the harvest of mopane worms, which are found in the trees. That is the Colophospermum mopane, which is widespread in the Matabeleland provinces, that is within the northwest and southwest of the country. And then, as you can see, it says that somebody had to do it. So it is people now taking advantage of these resources and converting them into more formal products with very high quality, which can be traded nationally and also internationally. The same applies for some fruits found in the Zambezi Valley, in the tree called the Ziziphus mauritiana, or also called the Indian jujube. So they're actually producing, this is actually something that is actually has been happening, but on a very, very illegal level, because people produce liquor from these fruits. And so in conclusion, I would just want to say that institutions are very much important. So the adoption of the Zimbabwe Biodiversity Economy report as a first of its kind is a way in which the country is now gearing its institutions to integrate, the wildlife economy into its mainstream economy. So there is need to strengthen the institutions that are responsible for the integration of the wildlife economy into the broad economic policy and practice in the country.